Welcome back to another deep dive, where we take a big stack of research and try to turn it into something you can actually use. Today,
Yeah.
we are diving deep into a figure who went from cursed mercenary to master of the afterlife,
Hmm.
Kelemvor, god of death in the Forgotten Realms.
Yes.
Our source material is the Forgotten Realms wiki.
Lots to work with there.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
And today's mission is, to figure out how this dude went from, just some guy to godhood.
Yeah, and not just godhood, but god of death.
Right, and how his, very human experiences...
Shaped how death works.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
For, the whole D&D universe.
It's really a story about transformation.
Yeah.
About how even a life that seems totally bound by fate can still, really impact the entire cosmos,
Yeah, so to get everyone on the same page, we're talking Forgotten Realms.
Magic.
Imagery.
Yeah. Powerful deities.
Yeah, but Kelemvor, he wasn't born a god.
What?
Started as a human dude.
That's right.
Named Kelemvor Lionsbane.
Kelemvor Lionsbane.
And he wasn't just any human. He was born under a family curse. The Lionsbane curse.
Ah, yes, the Lionsbane curse. This was not your typical werewolf situation. No, sir.
So explain that a little bit more.
Basically, it was tied to their actions.
Yeah.
It forced Kelemvor and all his ancestors down a very specific path that they may not have ever chosen otherwise.
Oh, so they didn't have any free will.
Not really.
Got it.
No.
Okay, so early on, the Lionsbanes, they'd turn into panthers if they got greedy.
Yeah, if they did anything purely out of greed, but then over generations it kind of reversed.
Oh.
By the time Kelemvor is born, they have to demand payment for every action they take or they risk transforming.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
Can you imagine the psychological pressure? How would that impact your sense of self, your morality?
Could you ever just, be a good person?
Did you ever be selfless, knowing that just a tiny act of kindness could trigger a monstrous transformation?
So it sounds like this curse basically sets him up for a life of conflict.
It totally does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because deep down, it doesn't sound like he's this ruthless killer.
Not at all. He's actually drawn to, art and beauty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And this clashes dramatically with his father, Kendril, who is a war veteran.
Oh, boy.
Obsessed with turning Kelemvor into a warrior, just like his brothers. Classic overbearing dad situation.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can already see this, tragic cycle forming.
Oh, absolutely.
His dad inflicts all this trauma, pushing him to be good at fighting, but for totally the wrong reasons.
It's palpable. The irony, Kelemvor becomes this skilled warrior because of violence, from his own father.
Yeah.
And it's this violence that ultimately leads to the first really horrific manifestation of the curse.
Oh, so he actually turns into the werepanther.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, tell me about it.
So Kelemvor's got this tutor, right, Tanith?
Mm-hmm.
She encourages his artistic side. And, of course, Kendril sees this as weakness.
Oh, no.
And he attacks her.
Really?
Brutally.
What?
Kelemvor, in a moment of rage, he transforms into the werepanther, killing his father and the guards to protect her.
Wow, that is intense.
That's a major turning point, fueled by the cyclical nature of violence in the Lionsbane family. Every generation has to kill the previous one to escape the curse's grip.
Geez, so he kills his dad, and now what?
Well, luckily, he has his uncle Byrne. He's this compassionate figure who teaches him to control the curse.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So he's not just stuck as a werepanther.
No. Byrne represents a different path for the Lionsbanes. A glimmer of hope in all the darkness.
Nope, you're right.
Yeah. He teaches him that he's not just this curse. He can choose a different path.
That's good.
Yeah.
But even with Byrne's help, the curse is still there, right?
Oh, yeah. It still hangs over him like a shadow.
Like a dark cloud.
Yeah. He wants to be a hero, but every good deed comes at a price.
Oof.
He's trapped in this moral gray area, constantly battling between his good heart and the demands of this curse.
So is he ever going to break free from this, cycle of violence and, obligation?
Well, that break comes during a period known as the Time of Troubles, a time of divine chaos in the realms.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and the Godbane actually lifts the curse from Kelemvor.
What?
Yeah.
So he's just free?
Free from the curse.
That's wild.
It's a major turning point. Even as a mortal, he's caught up in these events of, huge cosmic significance.
He's hanging out with gods.
He crosses paths with future gods like Cyric and Midnight. He even recovers the lost tablets of fate.
Whoa, and this is all before he's a god.
That's right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what happens?
Well, during this time, he gets caught up in this conflict that changes everything.
Okay, what is it?
He and his companions, they end up facing Myrkul, the god of death at the time.
Oh, so he meets the god of death.
Face to face.
And then what?
And this confrontation, sits Kelemvor on a very unexpected path, a path leading to the very heart of death itself.
Hmm.
So here's Kelemvor, finally free from this curse that's like defined his whole life, right?
Right.
Caught up in this crazy divine upheaval, and just when things seem to be looking up, what happens?
Why is he dies?
What, are you serious?
Yeah.
By who? How I thought this was his hero's journey to godhood. Well, it is his hero's journey,
Okay.
but it takes a pretty wild detour.
Okay.
He's killed by Cyric, who was just a mortal at that time,
Oh, wow.
wielding the sentient sword, God's Bane.
God's Bane. Didn't we talk about that sword on the last deep dive about Bane?
That's right. And as we discussed then, God's Bane is actually Mask, the god of thieves,
What?
in disguise.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So Mask just steals Kelemvor's soul. What is he doing?
Mask is always playing the long game.
Of course he is.
He sees potential in Kelemvor, right? He recognizes his inherent goodness and strength.
Okay.
But remember, Cyric becomes the new god of death after Myrkul dies.
Right.
And he's not exactly benevolent.
No. Cyric is basically a tyrant obsessed with power.
Exactly. That doesn't sound like a fun afterlife.
Not at all.
No. So Mask, the schemer, sees an opportunity.
Oh.
He knows Kelemvor's soul imprisoned in God's Bane is the threat to Cyric.
He's like a ticking time bomb.
Right. It becomes the focus of all of Cyric's paranoia and fear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So Kelemvor's soul, even though it's like trapped, is still part of this huge power struggle.
Exactly. He's a major player even in captivity.
That's crazy.
I know. And Mask is brilliant. He manipulates events, plays on Cyric's fears, and basically starts a rebellion among the other gods.
They're tired of Cyric.
Oh yeah, they're totally over his tyranny.
So it's a full-on divine rebellion with Kelemvor at the center.
You got it. And it all comes to a head in the City of the Dead.
That's Cyric's power base, right?
Exactly. Cyric completely loses it. He's driven mad by paranoia, and he actually destroys God's Bane.
To destroy Kelemvor.
He thinks he's finally getting rid of Kelemvor's soul.
But that's what Mask wanted.
Bingo. It was all part of his plan.
He's playing 4D chess.
Seriously. And so Kelemvor's soul is released right in the middle of this divine battle.
What a way to make an entrance.
Talk about a dramatic reveal.
So does he defeat Cyric? Does he become the new god of death?
He does. But it's not about power or conquest or anything like that.
What's it about?
It's about restoring balance to the afterlife.
So how does he change things? He was imprisoned for 10 years by Mask. He must be pretty angry.
Well, his experience changes him. He sees firsthand how messed up the old system is.
All of the injustice.
Yeah. And he decides to create something new. Something based on fairness and compassion.
That's a pretty different approach for a death god.
Right. It's pretty radical. So one of the first things he does is transform the Bone Castle.
The traditional seat of death gods?
Yeah, he changes it to the Crystal Spire.
Why?
Well, the Bone Castle was like this symbol of darkness and oppression, right?
Yeah.
The Crystal Spire represents transparency. It's like a fresh start.
I like that. That's powerful.
It is. He's basically saying death doesn't have to be this scary thing.
It could be something better.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
He also completely changes how souls are judged.
So there's no more like heaven and hell.
It's not about good versus evil anymore.
What is it about?
He believes in personal accountability. Your actions have consequences even after you die.
Oh, so it's like karma.
Kinda. But he also recognizes that everyone has good and bad in them, and he judges accordingly.
So it's more nuanced than just you go to heaven or hell.
Way more nuanced, honorable souls find peace. The wicked face justice.
It's like a cosmic balancing of the scales.
Exactly. He creates a system of divine justice where no one is punished unfairly.
That sounds fair. But does it cause any problems?
Well, it does lead to some unexpected consequences.
Like what?
Some good people start acting recklessly, thinking if they die, Kelemvor will just sort them out.
Because he's fair.
Right. And the wicked are terrified to do anything.
Because they'll be punished.
Yeah, so it kind of throws the world out of whack.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
You said it. And Kelemvor starts to doubt himself.
He thinks he messed up.
Yeah, he's tasked with judging souls, but he feels like he failed his own judgment.
As a mortal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He remembers his time as a mercenary, all the violence, the compromises.
He's got baggage.
We all do. And he realizes that being a god is hard.
Harder than it looks.
Way harder. He realizes he needs to change.
To be a better god.
To truly embody his role as god of death, he needs to become something more than human.
So he's going to evolve.
Exactly. He undergoes this huge transformation, shedding his human form.
What's he look like now?
He becomes more abstract, a masked figure, a symbol of impartial justice.
He's letting go of his past.
His regrets, his human limitations,
Yeah.
all of it.
Wow, that's intense. So what does this transformation mean for the afterlife?
Well, it leads to what's called a reevaluation, where the whole afterlife gets reshaped.
What do you mean reshaped?
The old ideas of heaven and hell, they're gone.
There are no more pearly gates or anything?
Nope. The afterlife becomes this gray, neutral place.
So what happens to souls?
They're grouped by their nature, their essence, and then they kind of shape their own existence.
So even in death, you still have free will?
In a way.
Yeah.
Kelemvor is saying that you're responsible for your choices even after you die.
That's a pretty radical idea.
It is. He's moving beyond good and evil, embracing nuance and complexity.
Does this cause problems with the other gods?
It does. There's a really sad story about their friend Adonan who dies.
Oh, no.
And he ends up in the city of the dead as a faithless soul.
What does that even mean?
It's complicated. But basically, he's lost.
Oh.
Mistra begs Kelemvor to make an exception for him.
What does he say?
He refuses
Why?
because he has to uphold his own principles,
Even if it hurts.
even if it breaks his heart. Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that even gods struggle with tough choices, you know.
Yeah.
Kelemvor's story isn't just about, like, death and the afterlife. It's about justice, responsibility, and, like, creating a better world even when it feels impossible.
I'm kind of blown away by all this. Like, we're seeing how the gods make these big decisions
Right.
that affect the whole Forgotten Realms, even for us players.
Yeah, so for you as a player, this actually meant no more guaranteed heaven for paladins.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Kelemvor's system meant even the most righteous characters had to really think about their choices
Right.
because they knew their souls would be judged on their actions.
Not just their faith. So, like, it made the game a lot more complex.
Definitely. It made players really think about their characters' motivations, their actions, and the consequences of everything they did.
Both in life and death.
Exactly.
It makes you realize that death isn't just the end, you know, it's
Right.
part of a bigger picture.
It's a cycle.
And how you live your life really does matter.
Kelemvor's story reminds us that even in a world full of magic and monsters, our choices have meaning.
We shape our own destiny.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even when things seem impossible.
It's kind of inspiring, you know, Kelemvor, this guy who started out cursed, having to take payment for every good deed.
Right.
He ends up changing what death means in the Forgotten Realms.
He goes from being trapped by fate to becoming the architect of fate.
That's amazing.
It is. And, you know, it makes you think about your own beliefs about death, about what happens afterward.
Yeah.
It's okay to be scared, but there's also hope in the cycle of life and death.
I think that's a great place to wrap things up. This deep dive has given us a new perspective on death and the afterlife.
It's made us think.
Yeah, and it shows that change and redemption are possible.
For the characters we play.
And for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.